Bonjour tout le monde. Je m'appelle Shramana Das. Today I will talk about the classic French desserts and the history behind it. France is famous worldwide for its decadent desserts, delightful concoctions, and the dreamy patisseries. The word dessert comes from the French word desservir, which means to clean the table. The word was first used during the 17th century to describe the offering of sweets after the main course. What started out as a customary routine of serving sweets such as fruits, custards, and cheese after meal has turned into a full-blown art form, and French have perfected this art in no time. They began to develop a whole repertoire of delectable, elegant, and utterly delightful confections, cakes, candies, and pastries that have won the world many times and are still being celebrated since then. So let's start the mini dessert tour. As one of the most beloved French desserts, creme brulee is so popular that actually there are three countries that have vied for the title of creme brulee inventors. England, Spain and France, all three claim to have created creme brulee. But many food historians agree that these kinds of custards were very popular in the Middle Ages across Europe. So it is a little hard to trace the dessert's actual history. The term creme brulee didn't appear until the 19th century. Early French versions of the dessert, in fact, did not burn the caramel like its modern versions, but placed a caramel disc on the top of the custard. It is also known as burnt cream or Trinity cream, and virtually identical original crema catalana is a dessert consisting of a rich custard base topped with a layer of hardened caramelized sugar. It is normally served slightly chilled. The heat from the caramelizing process tends to warm the top of the custard while leaving the center cool. The custard base is traditionally flavored with vanilla in French cuisine. It is sometimes garnished with fruit. The first recorded history of the kipferl or croissant was actually brought to Paris in the late 1830s by August Zang from Austria, who founded Boulangerie Viennoise in Paris. Croissant is a buttery, flaky viennoiserie pastry of Austrian origin, but mostly associated with France. Croissants are named for their historical crescent shape. Like other viennoiseries, they are made of a layered yeast leavened dough. The dough is layered with butter, rolled and folded several times in succession, then rolled into a thin sheet again. This technique is called laminating. The process results in a layered flaky texture similar to a puff pastry. Classic croissants are without any filling, but nowadays it has some fancy fillings like chocolate, almond paste, Nutella, pastry, cream, pumpkin, ice cream, fruits, jam, and so many other spices. The history of crepe is very fascinating. The history dates back to 13th century Brittany, France. It seems a housewife accidentally dribbled some porridge onto a hot flat cooktop. Not to waste it, she ate it, and the rest is history. Another story happened in 12th century in Brittany, France. Earthy buckwheat crepes grain was introduced in Brittany, and like the other story, thin buckwheat porridge spilled and became a thin, crispy crepe instead. These delicate pancakes are known as crepe in France. This name comes from the Old French word crispe, which means curled. This probably refers to the slightly ruffled edges. In France, every second day of February is called the Day of Crepe. Traditional crepes were used to be filled with lemon and sugar. In modern days, nut spreads, jams, berries, ice cream, caramel, cream cheese are used as the filling of crepes. Choux pastry is a delicate pastry dough used in many pastry with the basic ingredients of butter, water, flour and eggs. Choux means small puffs. According to some cookbooks, a chef named Pontali invented this choux pastry in 1540. Initially, he named it pâté Pontali. Over the years, the recipe of dough evolved and received different names like pâté populin, pâté choux. Pâté choux is the derivative name from pâté choux. A chouquette is a diminutive of choux, Wen is a small round hollow choux pastry covered with pearl sugar. Croquembouche is a French dessert made by stacking cream puffs in a conical shape, cementing them together with a caramel or spun sugar mixture. This dessert has been used at French weddings and celebrations for centuries. Because of the conical shape, it comes under the category of pismothèque. The croquembouche has a long history, but long history short, it appears to have been invented by French pastry chef Amitabh Kumar in the late 1700s when it became very popular as a wedding cake. These desserts are often too elaborate that people are hesitant to eat them, and in some cases it may actually be specifically designed to be ornamental. Construction of a complete croquembouche takes several days. An éclair is a pastry made with choux dough filled with ice cream and topped with chocolate icing. Éclair originated during 19th century in France, where it was called pain à la duchesse or petite duchesse until 1850. The word is first attested both in English and French in 1860s. It was widely believed that éclairs were invented by Amitabh Kumar, a pastry chef for French royalty. The first known recipe for their pastry appeared in the Boston Cooking School cookbook in 1884. The word comes from the French éclair, meaning flash of lighting, so named because it is eaten quickly like in a flash. Kouign-amann is a cake that first originated in 1800 in Douarnenez in Finistère, Brittany, France. The cake derives its name from the Breton language for cake, queen, and butter, a man. There are some controversies about the Kouign-amann's exact origin, but it's popularly said that a fortuitous accident in Finistère town, a baker named Ivnesco and his wife's grandmother invented this beautiful cake. Nonetheless, this cake is Trinity complex as it is tasty, a sugary caramelized combination of dough, sugar and butter. Kouign-amann is a sweet Breton cake made with laminated dough. It is a multi-layered cake originally made with bread dough, containing layers of butter and incorporated sugar, similar in fashion to puff pastry, albeit with fewer layers. The cake is slowly baked until the sugar caramelizes and the recipe's butter expands the dough, resulting in its layered structure similar to a muffin-shaped caramelized croissant. According to history, macarons are considered to be from Italian origin in 8th century, but this delicacy was introduced to France in 1533 in the wedding of Queen of Italy Catherine de' Medici and King of France Henry II. Their pastry chef brought this recipe with them. Another story from history that in 1792 two sisters Marguerite and Mary Elizabeth started selling macarons to commoners to earn money. They were known as macarons de Nancy. This is how macarons gained fame in France. In 1830s, macarons were assembled as two biscuits filled with jelly, spices, jam, buttercream or liqueurs. But from early 20th century, macarons are composed of two almond meringue discs filled with layered buttercream and different of flavors like matcha tea, pistachio, salted caramel, chocolate and so on are incorporated. The credit of modern macarons goes to French patisserie L'Auduhe. National Macaron Day tradition started in 2005 in Paris to celebrate French macaron and to support local charities. Madulain or Petit Madulain is a traditional small cake from Comminges and Livendon, two communes of Lorraine region in northeastern France. Madulains are very small sponge cakes with distinctive shell-like shape with tapered edges, smooth on one side and bumpy on other. It's made with eggs, flour, sugar and butter. The Madulain is synonymous with France as much as its wine and garlic or its baguette and cheese. Several legends are attached to the invention of Madulain, but long story in short, this small cake has been favored by kings and peasants since the 17th century and was cemented into French hearts and culture by the French philosopher Proust in the early 1920s. 3 layers of puff pastry, 2 or 3 layers of pastry cream, and the top of the pastry covered with powdered sugar or white fondant icing, flaky, crumbly, and creamy all at once is millefeuille. Millefeuille means 1,000 layers. In 1651, French chef François Pihak d'Olivehenna published the millefeuille recipe in La Cuisine Fossoyeur. In 1867, famous 19th century pastry chef Adolphe Sunio proposed the millefeuille as his personal specialty. Millefeuille is a traditional dessert with alternating layers of pastry and pastry cream. Modern days millefeuille is decorated with chocolate, buttercream and fruits as well. There has been a tradition of pastries with alternating layers of pastry and pastry cream since the Roman Empire, specifically in Naples. Because of this tradition, this pastry was sometimes called Neapolitan. There was a misunderstanding that Napoleon Bonaparte's name is the derivation from Neapolitan. Thank you for your time. Hope you have enjoyed and learned something new about the French dessert. Merci.